Good evening. So, if you remember that Leo Varadkar done immense damage to this country, right? And then he was speaking of wishing to maintain his position as Taoiseach at the time or Taoiseach and continue in politics, right? And then he went over to America and met, I would assume, Joe Biden and a whole stream of his associates, right? And then when he returned to Ireland, he resigned, right? So probably getting his marching orders, right? America or whatever shadowy agency you want to see obviously have their eyes in America, and they were looking at it saying, look, this fella he can't continue. Not popular by any stretch of the imagination. Since then, he's after getting a job as some made up job, right? He's going to do some guest lecturing and work with the faculty and the students in some fashion. And I'm sure be compensated handsomely for it too. Now, Donald Trump has come out and spoken about state funding going to universities that are promoting nonsense, right? Call it what it is, nonsense. And it's harmful, right? Harmful nonsense. And he said that Harvard has a $60 billion kitty, right? That's what it has in terms of wealth and money, right? But he's stopped the American government from funding Harvard to the tune of $8 billion, right? And he gave a couple of examples of former governors, former politicians who do the job they're paid to do and then bow out and then get given these lovely jobs, right, where they're paid probably 100,000 for each speech that they give or whatever the case is. So I wonder how comfortable Leo is sitting now with his role, knowing that it's probably not going to be coming out of Harvard's pockets, right? I would imagine that a lot of the state funding that was going to these universities are to pay for things that aren't really beneficial to the university, right? So we'll wait and see if Leo is actually worth the money that he's going to be getting paid or that he was promised, right? As he rides off into a sunset, right? And that's what all of these people will do, right? They'll head off. You see it with RTE people. They're working in RTE for a while. Now they're working in the government, right? Or vice versa. You see this. It's the revolving door thing, right? And they all have each other's hands in each other's pockets, right? So we'll see how much he's worth. We'll see if Harvard are going to continue with the offer that they have from and with the payments that he's expected now, right? Given the fact that they're now $8 billion down, right? So these things are worth keeping an eye on as well. And you can just see how these things work, right? So there was a meme going around a while ago about CEOs that were involved in pick a company, right? Pfizer, and then they were involved in Washington Times or whatever, right? And they just flip and flop between these positions, right? Telling you, telling you, telling you, and showing you that all of these entities and organizations, they're all playing on the same team. They all are the same team, right? And another great way of following and keeping an eye on these people is through book deals, right? And one person who I just seen it the other day is Gavan Riley, right? He is a Virgin Media news presenter or whatever it is that he does. He hosts a little talk show thing, and he is very poor quality, right? But he has a book deal, right? And this guy is privy to having his relationships with the politicians allow him to have them on his show, right? Where he can pose some pre-scripted questions to him, like Simon Harris and the two Johnnies, right? I'll go on your show, but give me the 10 questions you're going to ask so I can prepare a little answer for him first. That's not real, right? That's not real. If you juxtapose that, again, take your feelings out of it. If you like him or you don't, doesn't matter. But it is what it is. You juxtapose that sort of aversion to speaking to the public. You see these with so many Irish politicians. You see it. They're met with someone on the street who asks them a question and they just ignore them. Right? They don't even make eye contact. They don't even respond with it. I'm not answering that. They just keep walking as if the people don't exist, right? Now, juxtapose that attitude with Donald Trump's attitude, where he is sitting on front of a room full of press, and he's just taking questions, right? Taking question after question after question after question. They don't look pre-scripted. They look like it's a man who's answering the question because he knows the answer, because he knows the inner workings of the whole background mechanism that goes into being able to answer that question, right? It looks like a man who's making the decisions and is able to answer the questions because he knows the answer, because he has answered the question, right? So but that Gavin Riley guy, he's a book, and I'd nearly pay someone to read it, right, and just give me a cliff notes on it, because I wouldn't read it myself, right? But it's basically this secret life in Leinster House, right? And this guy is as cozy as you can get with government officials. And he's talking about I'm revealing the Leinster House that politicians don't want you to know about, right? Absolute nonsense. There's probably not going to be anything in that book that is worth anything. It'll probably be about Simon Harris with his Thomas the Tank Engine lunchbox filled with cucumber sandwiches and a little Capri Sun. And that'll be it. All little, aren't these really lovely people? They're just misunderstood sort of nonsense, right? And a couple of burials of people to keep them in line, right? So this is what we'll do. We'll use these little media heads to destroy your reputation if you don't keep signing them things, right? So that's a great way of looking, because look back over the last 10 years, 15 years, and look at like biographies and celebrity book releases, and see how many copies these books sold for, right? See how many copies they sold, and then see how much these people got paid for these book deals. And then have a look and see what these people's influence on the world really is, not what the news told you it is, right? Gather all of it. Watch the news, of course, but then also allow yourself to remain open to other perceptions, other framings of the actions of these people, right? And you begin to paint this horrible mosaic around you, right? You begin to paint an image of the world around you. And it's an interesting thing to do, right? Because so many of these people are just bought and paid for. And in a serious country, which we will be again, these people have no seat at the table. It's just as simple as that.